Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Legends Never Die podcast. Today marks a new day, our new segment's beginning, the interview series, where we'll bring in friends, family, and even complete strangers to come on the show, and we'll tell crazy stories and things that have happened or stuff we're interested in and know a lot about. So we'll start it off. For the sake of today's show, the title is going to be My Babysitter Was a Murderer. And we're going to leave out names for the sake of our guest and for the sake of the family of the perpetrator and victims in the story. So we'll start it off. If you know him, recognize his voice. Some of you may. He's a good friend of mine, partner, and also my old neighbor. But we'll leave his voice a secret for now. And anything said in this show, there is movies off this show, TV series. So this is a disclaimer that this is raw information straight from the first-hand source, a first-party participant in all the court trials and stuff, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is some real information. Some things, if you've seen anything on TV, they might have missed out on. But like I said, we got our guest in, and we also have Frank for the first time or the second time. He's actually the other host. Y'all don't get to hear his voice much. So he'll break onto the scene today, and we'll start it off. So you said that this is not just your babysitter. This is also your cousin, correct?
Right. It's my first cousin.
So how long ago was she your babysitter? It was years ago, but what
gosh.
age?
Yeah, I was 8, 9, 10, around that age. I mean, we've been close since we were, since I was very young. She's about 4 or 5 years older than me. And, yeah, so, I mean, she's been just a part of the family, from all the way back on and off.
And starting from your earliest memories with her, of her being your babysitter, what kind of babysitter was she exactly?
Oh, well, she was a let us do anything we want to do babysitter. We were, stealing my dad's beer and smoking cigars, things like that. She was, just let us do whatever.
And this was at 9 years old?
Yeah, 9 years old.
Well, that explains a lot. That's not many psychiatric traits there, but did she ever come off as strange or weird, or did y'all ever see her doing anything that was a little out of the ordinary?
No, actually, she was considered, she had 2 sisters. She was actually considered the normal one by us. We didn't realize how manipulative and how many things she had done in her past, until this whole murder went down.
That she's done manipulative things leading up to this. There was a few instances of other things before the death of who we will refer to as David on the show.
Right. Yeah, in her past, there was a lot of things sketchy, suspicious, looking back, of like houses being burned down, presumably to collect insurance twice. Her previous husband died in a mysterious car accident, and he had a large amount of life insurance also. So a lot of her past, she's had a lot of, insurance fraud, essentially. And she also got fired from a job a year before this murder for it was an insurance company she was working for, and she got fired for some kind of fraudulent act. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was about, but
that's what I was about to ask.
She did get fired.
Well, did
yes.
she get caught doing
Yes.
what she was doing?
She got
get caught burning the houses and stuff?
Oh, no, none of that. I know she got caught once in Baton Rouge. She was working for a doctor, and she got caught stealing money somehow. I guess she was doing the books. And I know she had to go to her husband, and her husband then ended up bailing her out and having to pay and keep her out of trouble.
She's always been very money hungry, and
oh, absolutely.
It's always been based around money, or was there any addiction involved in this? Drugs, gambling?
Gambling, yeah. Later on, yeah. The gambling, which we didn't even know about that at all until after the fact also. That came up later when we figured it out. I mean,
Was she going to casinos and that's how y'all figured out, or she was causing trouble, or it became a financial situation where they were running out of money?
Yeah, it started. I know she was. I mean, I guess I would start off with one text she sent me. I know this kind of changed the subject a little bit. Her husband David had an affair previously, and she found out about it, and there was something happened with that. But apparently, I was under the impression that he had kind of wasn't doing that anymore, and everything was okay. And oh gosh, only a few months before the murder, she texted me asking if I knew of any kind of program or app that could intercept text messages, and I told her no. And
she probably asked because your tech background, she figured you would know,
right.
She didn't want to ask anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah,
both.
Probably a little both.
Both. Yeah, I would be the person that
she
would ask for something
like
that.
You
no, she didn't know.
You were thinking past. You already thought a little sketchiness was going on.
She and I told her no, and then about a week later, she texted me again and said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Oh, it's false alarm. No problem. Everything's good." And so then, a couple months later, he goes missing
So we're getting to the beginning of the story here. The year was what? This was recently.
This was 2009. The
09.
murder was in 2009. Yeah.
And the trial went on how long?
Till, I think 2012.
So it took a while for the trial and investigation, or it just took a while to get to?
The trial just kept getting delayed.
And both sides had attorneys, I'm sure, and were fighting each side of the
back
story.
Back and forth about all kind of little, legal issues.
So the year was 2009. You see on the news, or you get a phone call that morning or that day?
She told us that he was missing. My mother actually told me. She had told my mother. And that was on a Monday. Yes, Monday. He went missing. And then I believe it was that Wednesday, 2 days later, that we saw on the news that there was a body found at a location in Lake Charles. And I immediately thought, I wonder if that's him. And we jumped.
I wonder if you were the only family member that thought that.
Well,
everybody else was too busy, I'm sure, mourning during this time.
We did have. I had one aunt call and tell us the same thing as we saw it. She called and said, "Hey, did y'all see that?" And she was thinking the same thing.
Where'd they find him at?
It was the end.
We'll give an undisclosed road name. I remember the name. It was out near Big Lake, correct?
Yeah, it was near Big Lake. Yeah, on a road with no houses on it.
Dead end street, kind of leading back to the water.
Back to the water, like a four-wheelers riding back there, that kind of thing. So at that point, we got in the car and we went out there, and there was, over 20 police vehicles, the big investigation van, and I got out, walked up, toward where the officers were, and the sheriff, he was there. He steps out and he asked us what was going on. I told him that we saw it on the news. He was actually kind of surprised it was on the news. And I was wondering, I had a friend that was missing, and I was wondering if it was possibly him. And
you asked the police officer to identify him, or if y'all could walk up and see the scene?
Well, I asked, he just said.
Or if they have identified him yet?
I'd asked him that, and he said not officially, but he did say, we can't say whether it's him or not, but I can tell you that he had a ring on, that matched David's initials on the ring that matched his initials. So, I was pretty convinced at that point, even though it wasn't official. And this was around 10 p.m. And he had said that once they confirm identification, everything. They were going to go notify the wife, and that would be in a few hours.
So was who we're going to refer to as Stacy, the perpetrator,
Right.
and the wife.
Right.
Was she at the scene with y'all, or had she been to the scene yet?
No.
Not at all? I bet she couldn't go physically or mentally.
Oh,
She couldn't go. She would have maybe lost it or
I'm
just...
sure.
Well, did she even act like it bothered her at all?
She did. She pretty much stayed in her room a lot, like as in being depressed.
So y'all left the scene after the cops had told y'all they were going to further investigate and release it. And where'd y'all go from there? Y'all went and met?
We went back to their house, to Stacy's and David's house, knowing that, this
Was most likely him.
Sheriff's department was going to come and notify, and it was most likely him. There was a bunch of people there, lots of friends, a lot of people knew. I mean, from us going, we told, we made phone calls and told people, and word got out that, yeah, that's him, and this is what's going to happen.
So y'all were pretty much one of the initial notifiers
Oh, yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So your
We were the
aunt was
first ones
also
out
with
there.
you? It was you, your wife, and your aunt?
Actually, it was me and my wife. My mother came with us, and then so I called Stacy's house, and Mary answered the phone. I told her what we saw on the news, and that we were going out there to see if it was him. And so her, Mary, and her guy she was dating, they met us out there. She, however, when I look back on it now, she wasn't real, eager to jump out there and go talk to the cops like we all were.
She was a little suspicious. We'll get
standing
to
back.
why she was so suspicious here in a minute.
Yeah.
But you could tell something was up with the
she
best
stood back
friend.
by her car. At the time, I did not even consider much about it, but that's...
But you always realize after things play out,
Exactly.
it makes sense.
Right.
Little clues, like
Right.
you said earlier with with Stacy, that you noticed weird traits before all of this happened, like weird events leading up to the murder and
the
stuff
text
like that.
I thought was odd.
And that may not have been odd in the moment, but after it made total sense.
Right.
So it was a similar
Absolutely.
concept there. Sorry, you called her and they came out with y'all and looked, and then what'd y'all do from there? Y'all went and visited Stacy, I'm guessing?
Yes, we went back to their house. Her kids were there, their friends were there, a lot of different people. All knew what was going on. The sheriff's deputies showed up about 1:30 a.m. and with it was investigators and the chaplain. They came, and pretty much it took a little. They got there, and she was still taking her nap. Apparently, the story was that she had taken some painkillers or something to put her to sleep because she hadn't slept in days because she was so worried. And so it took about 20 minutes or longer to get her, for Mary to go get her out of the bedroom. And everybody's waiting there with the police for about 20 minutes or so. Finally, she comes out. She sits down, and then they tell her, we found your husband with a bullet in his back, laying down, and, told her what the deal was. And she immediately started, grabbed a little trash can and started vomiting into it.
So her and Mary
At
probably
that point,
definitely were rehearsing this in the room when she was getting her.
Or yes, rehearsing it or getting her psyched
Probably
up.
told her to freak out
or-
whenever they tell her
Or
and all
just
kind of stuff.
she was probably really nervous about this
Yeah,
moment.
really.
I'm sure.
So at this point, we'll release to the viewers that Mary was in on the whole event, and she knew.
Yes.
So Frank just mentioned it there a little. They were probably in the room conspiring before they came out. All right. Are you ready to do this? Like, basically,
Absolutely.
think about
Make
sickening
sure
that
you know
sounds.
what you're gonna say.
They're like,
Yes.
all right, girl, we got each other's back. Our story's straight. We've practiced this, like you said, rehearsed it for weeks. Let's go do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How freaking crazy.
Yeah. And it's nothing seemed that authentic too. That's one thing that raised our eyebrows. It's kind of like when you see something that doesn't look real. It looks like that's not the right emotions.
You had a weird vibe.
Right. Weird vibe. Her emotions did not seem to match situations. She seemed to be just really all over the place emotionally, and more happy and
Not
drinking,
so worried about
lots
it.
of drinking beer and partying and
this was the
things like
aftermath, not like necessarily directly after.
Oh, I'm talking days, like the funeral.
Oh, days after?
Yeah, the day of the
Golly.
funeral. Which
No remorse, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we pulled up in the driveway to go that everybody was going to their house before the funeral, and it was she was sitting in the driveway on the tailgate drinking a beer, swinging her feet, and chatting with like partying.
She seems like she might have been completely psychotic. Acting like that.
I mean, yeah, looking back on it, it really is very manipulative.
Do you feel there was any regret there?
For her, gosh, I don't know. I don't think so.
Golly.
I don't think so. It seems like she was happy about it.
She thought she was riding off in the sunset, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So anyways, we'll go back to the story. So the police explained that they had found David shot face down, one in the back. How many gunshot wounds were there? Do you remember? Just one?
They said 3. They said 3 gunshot wounds in the back is what the police said. Later, that wasn't entirely accurate. I think they said that to mislead her if she knew. It's kind of their way, I believe, of getting people confused if they are
Yeah,
guilty.
because maybe they were taking a statement from her and they were like, mentioned 3 gunshots, and she mentioned only 1 gunshot.
Right.
They're like,
if-
well,
if
how would you
she-
know there was only 1 gunshot?
Exactly.
We've released everything saying there's 3. So yeah, I know an investigator would pull some stuff like that.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Later in the trial, it was different torso, one in the head. It was a different pattern, but still in the back, mostly from the back.
So more than 1 shot, multiple shots.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So with that, we'll get into the story of how it all played out. So we'll begin on once everything started coming to light and how everything took place up to them finding David's body. So they got together, I'm sure, one evening, and it was planned weeks ahead. A certain night, it was going to take place.
I mean, what the evidence shows, I mean, we put together a timeline of, starting that day from every fact we could find through when the court was going on. That's the facts we used, was things that were brought out in court and that were, facts.
So do you think she had any clue that y'all was on to her at any point in time?
She did. I know my mother was upset with me because she was family, and I told my mother, I said, "Hey, I don't know. They might be guilty. I'm kind of."
So they were mad at you.
And
for
my mother
thinking
couldn't
she done
believe
it.
that I said that, and she
He
was
was
really
a black
upset.
sheep,
I
am
was
I
kind of
right?
the black sheep of the family for a little while because I was the only one.
They
that,
thought you were a little crazy,
that wasn't
probably.
jumping on the bandwagon.
How long did it go on before they ended up finding out that it was her?
It was about 3 years between the actual murder and the final verdict.
Wow.
Close to 3 years. Yeah.
And the reason we're leaving a lot of the names out is because some people still believe she was not guilty, innocent.
Right. Some people do. Yes.
That's crazy. After all the evidence, was the evidence like so crystal clear that you would have to be showing major favoritism not to believe she did it, basically?
I think so.
It was
Yeah.
that, obviously.
From the
It would
court-
take someone who
from
was
the-
just devastated. They couldn't believe it no matter what came to light.
I mean, we followed the court reporter records is how we followed the trial. And we would talk to people that had gone to the trial.
Did you ever physically go sit
I
in?
went one day.
Or Mary ever see you when you were at the courtroom that time?
Oh, yeah.
So they knew you were there?
Oh, they waved at me. Yeah, they knew I was there.
Waved at you or gave you a...
I gave just a little small wave or a wink or something, you know.
She winked. I'm sure you gave her a little head nod saying, girl, you are screwed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's funny. I can't believe you went. That would have been awesome to go if I would have known you at the time and knew everything was going on. That was
crazy.
right when you moved in next door to me, around that time.
It was, yeah. Yeah.
Throughout the process, you were moving in over
Mhm.
there, I'm sure.
Right.
Oh wow, this was recently. I thought this been
09 to 12. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll get to some of the court evidence and how the story played out. So they got together that night, that fateful night, we'll say. And so there was a vehicle involved, borrowing one's vehicle.
Yes.
So we'll start there.
Yes. Apparently, how it started, he was shopping for a new boat. Okay, he wanted a new boat. He had sold his old boat for a decent amount, enough for a down payment, and he was off on a Monday. He was going to go boat shopping with his wife. They had let Mary borrow his Honda Accord, and so because her vehicle had a dead battery, is what they said. So she was using his vehicle. Mary was using David's vehicle, and David and Stacy were in Stacy's vehicle looking at boats. While they were at the boat dealership, they got a call from Mary saying she had a flat tire. So, and they are a good distance from the location where the flat tire was. They're, a good 20 miles maybe away. So they immediately leave the boat dealership, go directly to the location where Mary's has the flat tire in David's vehicle. So at that point, according to everything that, the court shows and our deduction, I mean, this is, I guess, what the court found too, is that when they showed up to go rescue Mary, to help her with her flat tire, the vehicle was off the road a good, 30 yards off the end of the pavement, into the, rough, it was four-wheeler trails, things like that, to where it was dry, but if it was wet, there was no way it could have got back there. So it was pretty far off the road. The vehicle was jacked up with the tire, the lug nuts loosened, the wheel was still on there. So I'm just imagining this happening. This is what the facts lead us to, and then he's, face down dead, ends up about 20 feet from the car. He's walking. They had to park their vehicle before they got to where the car was because it's too rough to drive. I don't know how. I mean, she really had to try to get that car back there. This is a Honda Accord, And so they get out of the vehicle, start walking toward the Honda, and she's right behind him with the gun. Leads him out there on a false pretense of a flat tire, and he's walking toward the vehicle, probably saying, "What the fuck did she do with my car? Why is she back here with my car?" And he's probably getting a little what the hell? And then
not suspicious, but just
saying,
upset,
"Why did she do this?"
Yeah.
Yes, she's messing up my car.
So you think 100% sure, and I'm sure the court document showed that Stacy, the wife of David, shot him, was the trigger puller?
No, actually, no.
It never revealed it?
They never got the facts. I believe that because I don't see any other way. But what they proved beyond a reasonable doubt is that they both conspired to kill him.
And if he
They
was
were
shot
able
in the
to
back, do
prove
you think
that.
there was a chance that he turned around and tried to run? He seen a gun and tried to take off? And that may be why there was multiple shots?
I don't know. I just think it was. He possibly could have started trying to run, but I think she just popped off as many shots as she could. Back then, if it was.
Did Stacy and Mary have some kind of? Did they have any kind of like love relationship or anything like this? Dealing with all this.
I don't
Is
know.
the reason
I
they
can't
plotted it
confirm
together
that.
so they could run away or something?
Well, they were best friends. Now, whether there was some kind of, more than that, I don't know. I can't.
I mean, I
confirm
wouldn't
that.
kill anybody with anybody besides my very BFF either. But
Yeah. But no, not that I know of. Very close though.
very close, whereas they were probably, going to split the money, but not like a run off together and
Right, exactly.
Yeah, kind of
Yes.
relationship.
That's what I gathered.
Friendship, not a relationship.
Yes.
But so yeah, shot him in the back right there multiple times, and then I'm sure they just freaked out. Them two.
Oh,
We're like, we
gosh.
did it, or were they just cool and
Oh.
collective? I wonder.
No, I mean they played it off fairly well. I mean, I didn't. We picked up on it. We always were suspicious. Kind of like saying people aren't acting quite right.
So did Stacy have any like firearm experience? She knew how to handle a gun and stuff, I imagine.
I would think so. I mean, the family she grew up in were hunters and things like that. I'm sure she had.
I wonder
She
where
had enough experience. And
did anyone know where they had got the gun?
yeah, the gun was David's gun. He
So that kind of made it a little strange there to investigators, I'm sure,
yes,
that his own firearm was used to kill him.
right, and he had done competition shooting. He was a pretty experienced shooter. He usually carried that gun, with him. But that day was different. The car got borrowed.
That gun was in the
He was
car,
with
you think?
the wife, so the wife took the gun. I'm assuming that she probably took it out of the car.
And somebody who's an
when
experienced
Mary borrowed it.
marksman probably wouldn't get shot by a strange individual. He would be ready, basically.
Right.
He's trained with the weapon.
Right.
So if somebody were to try to rob him or run him off the road
Mhm.
like that, he would be he would
Yeah.
turn fire quick. He would know how to react,
Yes.
not necessarily be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I feel like an investigator kind of trying to play it out. I was thinking maybe that the gun was left in the vehicle, and that would make Mary most likely the shooter. If it was left in his vehicle and they could
Right.
figure that out. So she
No,
must
I
have
don't
had
think
it. But
so.
like you're saying, you think that Stacy took it out of the
I think
vehicle.
Stacy had it, and I know he was.
So
they-
think of this. Stacy would have had to have the gun with David on the way out there to help her.
Yes, Stacy would have had to have the gun in her purse, just hidden in her purse, to where as soon as he's walking away from her with his back turned, she's got the opportunity,
So crazy.
letting him lead the way to the vehicle, to the flat tire.
So got out there. They shot him. They just left his body there. I wonder what their thoughts were. Or did they touch him? I wonder at all. Try to drag him?
Yes. No, they did set him up with his pants down around his knees. A few other things to make it look like something sexual going on, like maybe a mad husband coming out and getting mad because he's
30
messing
yards
around
off
with
the
his
road
wife.
in Big
Yeah.
Lake. Yeah, right.
That's what I
They
think.
just didn't think this through very well.
Right.
I mean, if I'm going to kill somebody, I'm probably going to map this out for years. I wonder what their thoughts were, though. Were the gators going to eat him out there? Or
I don't
before
know.
anyone found his body?
I don't know. It only took 2 or 3 days.
I wonder if were there any witnesses of like shots fired nearby. I know there was the store nearby. We don't have to mention the name for
No.
legal reasons, but
No
I
witnesses.
know there
of
was surveillance
shots.
footage there also that'll play into the story in a little bit.
Some surveillance footage that was
detrimental,
sketchy, and hidden by the proprietor of the business.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
It was a little sketchy. There was all kind of little, stories of a red truck or something showing up that never amounted to. It was just somebody's hearsay, really. Just something trying to, I guess, avert attention.
So they kill him, get back together. They leave his vehicle there, I assume.
They left the vehicle there.
And you said the tire was off the vehicle, so she would have had to have took it off, or maybe there was even a third person involved that helped her. You think it was probably
I think it was
just the two.
Those two.
She knew how to take it off.
Yeah.
And you being a mechanic, was there anything mechanically weird about the tire being off or anything like that?
Well, the police found immediately that the tire had no air, but they aired it up and it held air. It was not.
So there was signs of foul play.
It was a sign of just letting the air out, and the lug nuts were loose, but the vehicle was jacked up, and the tire was just still on it with loose lug nuts.
Wow. Who ended up finding him in the first place? Like, was it just a person?
It was a guy driving his Jeep out there.
Okay.
It was just riding, testing out his Jeep or something. Yeah, he called the sheriff department, and bam.
That'd be a weird thing to find.
Yeah, sure would.
I don't know what I would do if I seen a dead body. One time I was cleaning this house out. There was this stinky freezer in it. Frank was with me. This was just a couple weeks ago. And this freezer was stinking so bad. I was like, man, maybe there's a dead body in here. We wrapped it up and we didn't even open it. I didn't even want to see.
I don't want to see
I didn't even want to know what stunk so bad in there. But hopefully it wasn't David's body parts. But so back to the story, they find him, cops come, the guy in the Jeep finds him, and everything happens then. And then, so we'll fast forward to what started to happen in court, the initial going to trial stages, what happened first, like bringing him in, first type of interviews, anything like that, or when did they first find out that Mary may have had something to do with it? I'm sure she was being investigated since it was her vehicle, or how long did it take to find out?
I believe they suspected him from the very beginning.
That both had a part in it.
Yes. At least suspected Stacy, for sure, from the very beginning, because of her reaction at the when they gave her the news, her other reactions in talking to the police. They even the sheriff had some mention of inappropriate behavior for the situation, like that's not a grieving widow, that kind of thing. She doesn't look like a grieving widow. She doesn't look like a distraught wife.
She wasn't surprised,
right?
She already knew it happened.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
The element of surprise was gone. I murdered my husband. But anyways, yeah, so they go to trial, and I guess they're starting to grow suspicion. And what was some of the original evidence, like some of the first things that they had released to the public? I know there were some things involving cell phone towers, but was there anything before that, like the security cameras of nearby, or any other witnesses or anything?
There was lots of confusion about the swapping of the vehicles.
And I'm sure they got each Stacy and Mary separated where they couldn't be together and communicate and plot.
Yes.
They kind of gave them individual interviews and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. And I've seen those interviews, and they are very conflicting as far as what their story was on who jump-started the vehicle, who did this, who did that. It was a lot of, jump starting and a lot of vehicles moving around and who did what, and none of the stories matched.
So would your mom have to say to you whenever all this started unfolding?
Oh, she just said, I guess they did it.
Yeah, just couldn't believe it all.
Once she saw it
Especially couldn't believe he was
I think
right.
once all of that happened, she was in her camp all the way through the trial, all the way until the conviction. She was all about backing her up and on her side.
Even to the point where Stacy was living with your mother, correct?
Yes. My father was sick, and she was helping my mother take care of him, which was very nice. She did a great job.
Really,
but, yeah,
eased her
very
mind
close
from
to my
killing
mom,
people,
and
I'm
very, but also very manipulative.
taking advantage, maybe going after your mom, spending your mom's money, maybe even.
Yeah, trying to. Yeah. And my mom was not the most. She had the beginning signs of dementia at that time too. I don't think we really realized that.
That's probably another reason why maybe she didn't realize like some of the evidence as quickly as you did. Were there others though that realized the evidence right away, or you were still kind of the black sheep all the way up until stuff was being revealed?
Not really in the family. Not in our family.
What about your sister? I know she's kind of.
Well, no, my sister is the one that the other one that would have been suspicious.
Yeah.
They were suspicious. My sister and her husband were definitely suspicious also.
I could see y'all sitting together talking about it. Like,
we had lots of conversations about it. And
did they ever attend the trials with y'all or listen in? Did y'all ever share information about it? Talk about what you had found?
Actually, my sister, she's the one who got the paid for the subscription to the courthouse to get all the records online so we could see them.
And y'all would kind of meet up and have coffee and
comb. Yes.
go through our Cousins of Murder.
Yes, that's right.
So this was the highlight of y'all's life for a little while.
Oh gosh, it was the best soap opera ever.
Oh yeah, I bet that would have been crazy.
It was a day to day, like what's happening now, especially when the trial was going on.
And how often were they going? Was it like a daily thing, or they were meeting every week?
Yeah, every day. I think they would give them one day off, maybe or maybe the 2 weekend days. I think it went a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, the trial itself.
I'm guessing she had a very renowned attorney, your cousin,
absolutely.
Stacy, that I wonder if the attorney believed or did she know? Because I know a lot of times in an initial meeting with an attorney, the attorney will ask, so let's be honest, I'm going to represent you, but did you do it?
I think
and if you did, let's find a way to cover it up.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
isn't that a sly?
It is
right there, a lawyer.
It is.
What the heck?
I mean, I don't know.
But could you imagine the lawyer turning it down and being like, no? Then you'd have to fear them going and exposing you.
Right.
So either they have to be a little crooked, or they just have to be honest with their client and say, okay, later, never talk to you again.
Right.
But consciously, they know, subconsciously, the lawyer would know. They would have to take the case or expose them, I guess.
And this particular lawyer took the case with no money down, no retainer or anything, just on the, I guess, if she got off, then she would get that life insurance money, and then she would owe him. It actually turned out to be all of it.
Yeah,
the whole thing, which he got her before the end of the trial, before the verdict. She had to essentially sign over all of her insurance assets to him because his bill was way beyond. It was going to be.
It took years. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much was the life insurance policy?
There was around close to $700,000. Yeah.
She was plotting. So back to what you had said earlier before we continue here with some of the evidence. There was signs of foul play earlier on, a mysterious car wreck with a first husband. We may not want to get into that. I don't know. That's your choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing. Nothing's been proven. It's just, there's talk.
Well, the house is burning down, too.
The house is burning down. That was something. That was just suspicion. Nothing ever, no investigation ever. Just, collect the insurance, move on.
I wonder if the investigators took that to light. I'm sure they did. They looked at a prior history of fraudulent activity and kind of immediately suspected her.
Yes, they talk about it in these this particular 48 Hours episode that aired it.
So now we'll jump back into some of the evidence. So they're in court. They've got their stories started to get crossed up, and then something that came to light about the cell phone towers, and this was probably once it got further in. I'm guessing the investigation got deeper and they had solid evidence and then pulled out this card, which was probably their best card, their best hand.
Yeah, the cell phone evidence was definitely the main thing that proved it. That's what got them convicted, I believe, because they lied, said they were in a certain area, said they had never been to that area in their life, and it, when questioned and asked about it, they had no answer other than, I swear on the Bible that I wasn't there,
or that they had never been there.
They had never been there.
And was there any connection to them in that area? Did they have a camp out there? Was that close to their home? Or
it was near a bar that they like to frequent. Very close, within less than a quarter mile.
So she was indeed definitely familiar.
Yeah,
with
they
that
knew
area.
that. They knew the area, absolutely.
Ever fish out there? Maybe.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
So
she had to go.
they pinpointed this. It was like, if I ever kill somebody, this is where I'm gonna kill them. One day catching a big fish. Oh, it'd be nice to kill somebody right here. Crazy. But yeah, so what was the deal with the cell phone towers? I know we've talked about it before. They started to really nail down on them.
They, when we looked, we looked at all this evidence from the district attorney's office, from the courthouse that we got. This was all right after the trial when they released it all. And, we went back and looked. We knew they were talking about it. They were showing it in court. But we went and looked at it really close. And it really pinpointed their locations to the route they took.
Showed them leaving the boat shop together, probably.
Yes, showed them leaving
her
there.
Cell phone being at the location of the murder scene.
Right. Oh, yeah, her going from the boat place to the murder scene. Also, Mary leaving the scene of the murder I think it was right then. I think she left before they got there. This is my theory. Other people say that she would have still been there, but her cell phone shows her leaving the murder scene and going to her house right before it happened. So her job could have been to show up, set up the car,
and get out of there.
Set up the scene, and then call. She had another vehicle planted out there. They had dropped it off that morning. Just dropped it off there so she could have something to leave in.
Where was that vehicle left? Just like suspiciously on the side of the road, or?
Yeah, and like I said, this was a old dead end road with no.
So both vehicles were there.
Yes, but
I was gonna ask. I wonder if Stacy, the perpetrator, your cousin, if she came back and scooped her up, and they saw that on the cell phone towers, or she left. And what did Stacy do? Stacy went and just come and gone, left also.
Yes, that was the murder. Like it looks like Mary had left her vehicle there that was supposedly had a dead battery, but really didn't. Left it there, showed up in the Honda, and set up this flat tire murder scene, and then left in her vehicle, and went back to her house. And it shows that on the cell phone activity. It shows her leaving, and it looks like she left right before they showed up. Like she was kind of, okay, I'm here, I'm calling, I had a flat, bam, 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 and then they go there. So she left, they showed up, I believe, and that's when she shot him.
I wonder if Mary really had much to do with it at all then, in the first place.
Oh, I think
or if
it was
Stacy just had got her just to do that, and then it was all Stacy's idea from the beginning.
Well, I think she was definitely in the planning of the whole thing.
Yeah, see, I believe that too. The way the story's going, I could see it being
it was
inspired from the beginning.
Those two were really side by side. There was some other friends. There was another really close friend that, I was wondering about her, but from day one, she was not suspected at all. And
was she present in all of these mornings, like at their house the day it happened? And
Oh yeah, she was living there. Both of these girls were all living in this same
I wonder if
house.
she knew anything. Do you think, personally,
That
maybe Stacy had approached her first, or when she also approached Mary and was like, hey, one of y'all need to help me with this?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would have been Mary first. Would have been the first one. Now, this other girl, she may have known something, but she was definitely not in on it. And, my thing was, because I wondered, I said, why are they leaving her alone? What's the difference? What's the deal? They must have something. And I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, well, it's the cell phone towers. The cops go do these interviews. They ask them, where were you on this date? Where were you at this time? And these people all answer the questions, and they go check cell phone records. And this other girl, hers must have lined up perfect. And they're like, all right, well, she didn't lie. Her cell phone records track her.
That's one of the initial things they do, I believe, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Also, the husband of the woman that David had an affair with, he was a suspect for a very short time, but totally didn't cover anything up, didn't lie about anything. Also, the woman that he had the affair with, she was distraught. She was bawling, crying in her interview, just completely upset. And that's what one of the police told Stacy, that when they accused her of it, they were being hard on her in these interviews when they suspected her. He just slams a book down and says, bam, this other woman, I didn't have enough Kleenex in this office for as much tears was coming down her face.
And you're his wife.
Over his death. I haven't seen one tear. I haven't seen anything from you. And that's what it was. It was like no emotion. There was nothing there.
What'd she have to say about that when he had
I don't know. I really don't know. She's actually the one who told me that. What I just told you. And
Who told you? Stacy or
Stacy told me that.
The person he was having the affair
She told me this before. This is before the trial, during the investigation.
Before she was found guilty.
She was upset about how they were treating her at the sheriff's office in the interviews, and that's what she said. That they slammed the book down and was talking about all the tears that the other girl was crying, and just they had to console her. It was just felt this like, okay, well, she definitely didn't kill him because she.
So they quickly narrowed it down to Stacy and Mary.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Yeah, I believe.
Got intense with it.
I believe
they knew they had their two assailants and were ready to put them behind bars.
Yep.
And during this time, after everything had happened, was there any other compelling evidence that you may remember that was essential to the case? Anything else that was out of the ordinary?
One thing that was interesting was they checked his messages on his cell phone, and for the days he was missing, and there was not one message from his wife. There was plenty of message from all different people. Where are you, man? We're worried about you. All this stuff. His mother, his wife.
Voice messages and text messages.
No voice
I'm
messages.
Sure.
I think there was a couple text messages she sent that were just very. It looked like she sent it just to say she sent it. Where are you?
Very.
And that's it.
Blank.
Yeah, very, and not much too. Like one, I think. No messages. I think there was one call from her, but no voice message left, and then maybe one text.
So that was definitely a sign of she wasn't very worried about it.
Right. She already knew what happened. So at that point.
So a lot of evidence lined up, and then I'm sure we finally had reached a conviction date when they went in front of a judge and were found either guilty or not guilty. And did y'all attend that, or y'all just stayed behind the scenes?
We
it was very
stayed
private.
Behind the scenes and just waited for the news.
Y'all are basically there licking your fingers. You didn't want it to happen, but it was just I told you so kind of moment. Like you knew it was what was going down.
We knew when they were in session, when the jury was in. I mean, I was waiting on a message on my phone, an alert to let me know when the verdict was up.
I wonder how she had reacted whenever they did finally convict her and told her life sentence?
I know I think she just went blank. I remember seeing, I think there was a picture of her, and from what my mother said, it's almost
Your
like
mom was there?
my mother was there, yeah. And she said that her head was down, and it was just like the life just drained out of her, or like all hope.
And they did both of Stacy and Mary's trial together, like the conviction day and everything, both?
Yes.
They said, we find you both guilty of, first-degree murder? Manslaughter?
It ended up being second-degree murder with life with no parole.
For both of them?
For both. Yeah, they both got the same.
Probably a few other conspiracy charges, conspiracy to capital murder or whatever.
Oh, there was some other things. Yeah.
But it was identical charges, most likely?
It was. And they, I'm surprised. There was a lot said about them being such good friends and not rolling on each other. Because I feel like whoever pulled the trigger, the other one could have easily got a much lesser sentence by rolling over on the other one, and neither one of them did it. And I mean, it's like if Mary, I don't know if she's kicking herself now for not doing it, for not rolling over on Stacy and saying she shot him, she was the one pulling the trigger. If she would have done that, her sentence would be much reduced, I'm sure.
Did they put them in the same prison, same jail?
They I believe so. Yeah, they were. Last I heard.
I wonder if they're together all the time. Like, I wonder if they're actually together like that.
Not always. I heard.
I hope they wouldn't put two people together like that.
Yeah, I've heard a few things.
Supposedly murdered somebody.
Yeah, supposedly, yes, did.
Yeah,
it's no longer supposedly or allegedly.
Yeah,
100%.
They're in the it's a women's prison. It's not far from Baton Rouge. South of Baton Rouge, or
so what you were saying a second ago, one rolling over, ratting out the other. I'm also surprised that Mary didn't do that. So maybe she was the actual trigger puller.
She could have been. I mean, or maybe she just
was with her till death.
I think
we're that good of friends. We're going all the way. Or they had a chance, maybe.
Yeah, I believe that they really thought that they were gonna get acquitted. They did not think they were going to get found guilty. I think that
all the way through, huh? Because even at the end, she could have
rolled over on her all the way to the last.
And she's probably looking at like 20 years or something if she would have done that.
Yes.
Not near.
Yeah.
It still would have been very serious because they would have conspired to do it, and she admitted to all that and did have a part in it. But if she kind of said, I left the car there and left, I didn't know she was going to kill her, and she did, or even I knew, but I didn't kill her. I left the car as planned, and I got out of there.
Right, I played this part, and she would have. It would have been a much lesser sentence, for sure. But neither one of them did it. They went to trial together, which was a choice by them. They could have had separate trials, but they didn't. They didn't want that. And I believe that Mary thought, she was going to get half of that money. And I think she really thought they were not going to get convicted. And as soon as this all blew over, she was going to have that money and they were going to live happily ever after.
So $700,000, $350,000 each. Think about this, viewers. Is that worth killing someone over? Going to prison for life for $350,000? So there may have been some kind of satisfaction they even got out of it, which would be kind of weird.
Yes.
Maybe she was born a little ill.
There was lots of money issues, throughout her life. So she had been known for being not responsible with money.
She would have just been broke probably in another 6-7 months.
Absolutely.
If she would have got it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And was there anything she was doing during this trial, like feeding her addictions?
I think she was heavily gambling the video poker casinos.
So essentially spending up all the money she had left in case she got caught, possibly, something like that?
I mean, I know she had written a lot of hot checks and a few things she got burned for during this time, in between the murder and the trial, during those 2 to 3 years. I know at a couple restaurants she wrote some checks and didn't have the money to pay for them. A few things like that.
So she done a lot of suspicious things basically after the trial, during the trial, and after conviction. I wonder what she was like. What was life like after jail or in jail for her, and anything like that? Did you ever go see her? Or
no, I never have.
Or any of the court proceedings? How'd they deal with things after she was in? Her attorneys probably backed off, and
they've appealed. They've exhausted all their appeals at this point, I'm pretty sure. They still maintain their innocence. They still claim they're innocent, claim they were set up, whatever they're claiming. But
you haven't
have
gone
not
to see him?
Admitted. I haven't, no.
Or anybody necessarily that has any information that
No, I've heard a few things, but the only one I know of that, other than her mother and her daughter go and see her, but I haven't really heard a whole lot about what's going on.
And for their sake, we're not going to say we 100% think that she was guilty, but we all 99.9% believe that, especially after hearing this story. It was a crazy one. It was a good one. Does anybody have any other questions or anything they want to say? It's just all crazy. I know that was your first time, Frank, hearing the story. I'd heard it before because we work together and do a lot of things together, and I live next door to you. But yeah, that's it. A crazy story. My cousin, my babysitter was a murderer.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Looking back now, I would imagine she regrets some of the things she done looking back now, but the way the story played out, I don't believe that. I don't know.
I don't know if she has any remorse. She may regret getting caught. She regrets
that's what I was
doing
about
it
to say.
because she got caught. If she wouldn't have got caught, I don't know if she'd regret it.
Nah, she probably would have ended up doing it again at that point. She would have thought she could have got away with it again.
Definitely a pattern. A lot of swindling and insurance fraud. This was another insurance fraud. It just had to do with murdering somebody.
Yeah, when the money ran out, do you honestly think she might have done it again? If she would have got away with it, or it would have been too obvious?
Another.
She would have maybe not done that, but maybe she would have went back to cooking books at another job, or just something decisive.
Down a house, some kind of insurance fraud. I mean, that was her life was, lots of insurance fraud throughout.
And a lot of sketchiness, definitely.
Lots of sketchiness, yeah.
But all right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. We thank our guest today. I'm sure we'll have him back in when he won't be so undercover. And it was an interesting story. I really enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time I heard it. We talk about it all the time because it is a crazy, interesting topic. And I'd love to tell people if something like that ever happened to me. And our viewers can also do so by sending an email to legendsneverdiePodcast1@gmail.com. If they want to come in and be a guest on the show, we have a list right now, and we felt like this was the best and most important that we had chose to get to first. Definitely awesome story, and we hope everybody else enjoys it. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Legend Gear and Apparel and Legend Wood. Go check them out on Instagram at Legend Gear and Apparel and Legend Wood, and at legendgear.co. We'll get 10% off as always using the Legends Never Die discount code, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks again.